On blast.
Thank you for tuning in once again to the Ball on Blast podcast. My name is Sheldon and Andrew, joined once again by my dude, my guy, Andrew Webster. Webby, what's up, man?
Hey, man, not too much. Just watching some horrific Isaiah Cannon injury replays.
We are coming to you again, as always. We tape Thursday nights on the Ball on Blast podcast. Your Toronto Raptors have just lost a tough game against the Washington Wizards. But, you know, as always, we don't keep it just to the Raptors. We talk about everything going on in the world of basketball. And what a week it was, Webby. So much going down.
Eventful, to say the least.
To say the least, indeed, right? Blake Griffin gets traded. A little thing I like to call keeping up with the Cavs as they continue to be the best reality show that's out there right now. We got, as I mentioned, Raptors talk, of course. James Harden putting up a 60-piece. More Blake Griffin stuff. People going ham at each other on Twitter. As always, keeping our Feed Me segment alive and well. More ish from LaVar Ball that we might try to sneak in just because it's been a while. But so much going on in the NBA, Webby. But of course, there's one place that we always start here on the Ball on Blast podcast. And that is with a little thing we like to call turn up or turn down, which is simple, folks. We make a statement. Turn up equals good. Turn down equals bad. First up, the big news, the blockbuster, Webby. The Clippers won the Blake Griffin trade. Turn up or turn down, Webby? What do you think?
Yeah, I got to turn up on this. Not only do they get a big return and a couple of picks, but they get out from under what was looking like a crazy Blake Griffin contract. And I'm sure we'll go over the numbers soon, but I'm sure that Jerry West and the Clippers front office are pretty happy that they don't have to be paying Blake Griffin $40 million 3 years from now.
So crazy, right? As we go over the particulars here, the Clippers traded Blake Griffin to the Pistons for Tobias Harris, Avery Bradley, your man Boban, a first-round pick and a second-round pick, where the Pistons will also get two other players. I think it was like Bryce Johnson and someone else. It doesn't really matter. Willie Reed, maybe? I don't know.
Willie Reed.
Basically, the centerpiece, though, is them getting Blake Griffin. And in regards to the topic here, yes, I'm also turning up on this as well, Webby. The Clippers definitely won this trade. But in saying that, I understand exactly why the Pistons did this. They're kind of in the hunt here for the playoffs still in the Eastern Conference, which they moved into a new arena. They're still trying to get fans out because their stadium's empty. And Stan Van, who is running kind of like a Doc Rivers type ship, or at least what Doc Rivers' ship used to look like in terms of being a coach and GM, Stan Van might be in some trouble. So I see him trying to, put all his chips into the middle of the table, and he's going for it here, bringing in Blake Griffin, maybe hyping up the fan base, and also it's Detroit. So they're not really able to get free agents like, let's say, the Lakers or whatever, So I understand what the Pistons are trying to do, but I still got to turn down because you mentioned it, Webby. Blake Griffin, he signed a 5-year deal with the Clippers that in the last year, which would be the season of 2021-2022, your man will be making $38.9 million.
Wow.
So let's right? Like, is that crazy? That is why I think the main reason why the Clippers won this deal. Getting yourself out of that contract, no, Webby? Like, that's crazy.
For sure. Now, I don't think it's quite as disparate as we think it is between the who won and who lost. Because in Detroit, listen, you're still in the Eastern Conference, and Blake Griffin is, regardless what you think of him, how many games he's played, happen off the court with him, you still got to say he's a top 20 player in the NBA, right?
For sure.
So if you had a top 20 player to really any team in the East, it could make a big difference in winning a playoff round, maybe even winning 2 playoff rounds, depending on how great Andre Drummond is playing.
That's a great point, Webby. I mean, the thing that we're forgetting too is you're right. We're putting him beside Andre Drummond, who is an all-star again this year, right? And so now you have 2 all-stars on your team. Blake Griffin, when healthy, if healthy, is an all-star caliber player in the NBA. And so again, you're right. It is difficult if you're not one of those big market teams to get someone of that caliber if you don't draft them on your team. So I totally understand the risk that Stan Van is taking here when Blake Griffin this year will make 25 and a half, and then that goes up to 31, then 34, then 36 mil. And then again, as I said, up to basically $39 million in that last year of a deal. But the thing that would worry me, Webby, is Blake Griffin's last 3 years. So last year he played only 61 games. In 2015, 2016, he played 35 games. And in 2014, 2015, 67 games. So if Blake Griffin plays, cool. We know that he's a great player. He's an all-star level talent, but can he stay on the court? That I think will be the biggest risk factor there for the Pistons going forward.
Yeah, 100% agree. But that's the risk you take when you trade for a guy like Blake Griffin, because when he's on the court, he's been pretty good. And he had a great debut tonight on Thursday. They looked really good. I'm not sure if they won, but I know that he was putting up some pretty good numbers and shooting the ball pretty well.
He did look good. I saw there was a tweet. I think he threw an alley-oop pass to Andre Drummond. And the caption just said, "Lob City makes a return," right?
Mm-hmm. Cool. The other one that I saw was that he forgot his jersey coming out for the second half. Did you see that? And then one of the coaches had to tell him what was up, and he was like, "Oh my God."
That is amazing. And yes, the Blake Griffin era has begun with a victory as the Pistons won 104-102. As I look up his line right now, 24 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists, and 2 blocks from Blake on 6 of 12 shooting.
That's a tasty line. That's a tasty debut right there.
Right? Stan Van looking good. I mean, it's against the Memphis Grizzlies, but hey, you're trying to get into a playoff spot. You're going to take the wins where you can get them right now if you're the Detroit Pistons. So I get this.
You know what's so weird about this move, though? Mm-hmm. Is that it's so unlike Stan Van Gundy to have a player like Blake Griffin.
What do you mean?
Well, when you think of those great Orlando Magic teams,
yep.
That made the NBA Finals, that was 4 shooters around Dwight Howard.
Yeah,
when you look at what Detroit was putting together this year before trading for Blake Griffin, it seemed like the same thing. You had Drummond in the middle, and you had shooters around him. And now you have another big man that comes in. And it's not something that I've really seen Stan Van Gundy use before.
Yeah, it is super interesting. But I think it also kind of fits in with this modern NBA where, it's almost positionless, right? And you're just trying to get talent on your roster and then figuring it out, right? Like putting the 5 guys out there. And if we use another example, I mean, RIP to Boogie's season this year, but we weren't really sure if Anthony Davis and Boogie Cousins would work, and it was finally looking like it was working, right? Yeah. With those 2 big guys, and it's sad to say that that Boogie went down when he did, but it kind of just goes with that trend of just get the talent, put the people out there, and they'll figure it out. It's not really focusing on the positions in so much as who's a forward, who's a center, who can play with this guy, like. Talent will figure it out. I think that's a thing. Even if we go to OKC, that's another example, right? Like just get the all-stars, get the players, and they'll figure it out. Talent will trump everything, right? I think that's the way to go in the NBA. And this appears as if Stan Van is kind of figuring that out, or at least trying to adopt that mentality. But yeah. The one thing I want to ask you, Webby, is from the flip side here, like Blake Griffin, from everything we know about him, right? I think Blake Griffin loved playing in LA, right? Like that was a part of his whole thing. Like he was a big comedy guy and wanted to get into acting and,
right.
Like LA was a thing for him. So to make that switch now going to Detroit, do you think that he should be kind of salty towards the Clippers? I mean, they just signed him to a 5-year contract in the offseason. What do you think of that? Do you think they should be upset?
Listen, I don't know about being salty about the Clippers giving him all that money. I mean, I might be a little salty with apparently the pitch that they made to him and the reason that they got him to stay in LA and sign that deal, mm-hmm. Pitching him, for the future as a Clipper for life and raising his number to the banners and whatever.
Yeah.
And I understand it's a business. I understand that, Blake probably leveraged a little bit of what other teams might have been offering him around that same time mm-hmm. When the Clippers re-signed him. So I don't think that either side should be salty of what happened,
Yeah, it's so true, right? Because the easy take here was everyone right away in this culture of how the internet works, right? Blake Griffin gets traded and you start seeing all these tweets of people talking about how, the Clippers did him dirty because, as you mentioned, right, there's this whole write-up about the pitch that they made to Blake Griffin where they had him walk through like this sort of maze and it led him to the court where they had his jersey retired and the PA announcer came up saying, tonight we're honoring a lifelong Clipper. And the whole premise was that they were fast forwarding to, I think, like 2029 and Blake Griffin's retirement ceremony, right? And their whole thing was that's when they offered him the 5-year deal because they wanted him to be a lifelong Clipper, be the first guy to have his jersey retired, right? Which led your boy LeBron James, who we'll get to later because we know the Cavs are everywhere. But they asked LeBron James about this, and he said, quote, he spent the last 9 years there. He signed a multi-year deal there this summer, so that's unfortunate. But that's the business side of it. It's both sides. It's the business. He says when a player gets traded, it's they was doing what's best for the franchise. But when a player decides to leave, it's he's not loyal. He's a snake. He's not committed. It's just that narrative of how it goes. So I'm definitely aware. I know that firsthand. He does bring up an interesting point.
That sounds like a guy who knows it firsthand.
Right? But you kind of touched on it, Webby, but I think it's a thing that people don't really know. So that whole negotiation that was going on with the Clippers at the time, though, right? Blake Griffin, so while all the tweets, I mentioned all the tweets and everyone jumping on Blake Griffin's side saying the Clippers did him dirty, but I think you touched on it early, but Brian Windhorst made it clear as to what happened during the negotiations. And so Blake Griffin at the time was offered a 4-year contract from the Clippers, but he wanted that 5th year. So he scheduled a meeting with Phoenix to try to leverage the Clippers into the 5th year. So the Clippers in turn gave him the 5th year, but they leveraged it by not giving him a no trade clause. So business moves all around, right? Who knows, if Blake Griffin only takes the 4 years, does he still get traded? Probably not, because he's not waiving that no trade clause, right? So it's a super interesting situation on both sides, and it looks like the Clippers are just trying to rebuild now. Do you think that's the right move for them in LA?
I do think it's the right move for them in LA. And that's the thing about basketball. Whether you're a player or a team or an owner or a GM, a big chunk of this game is business, right?
No, for sure. And they're saying that Woj, who was the one who dropped this Woj bomb, but he also said that the Clippers will continue to pursue packages of young players and picks in talks for DeAndre Jordan and Lou Williams. So they're trying to rebuild. They're trying to paint the picture that they're rebuilding on the fly with Jerry West. But there's kind of the narrative, too, that they're trying to clear cap space to have their options open if, say, some guy named LeBron wanted to go to LA, but maybe it wasn't to the Lakers. Do you think they have a chance there, Webby?
Lifelong Clipper fan Paul George.
Do you think they have a chance there with that?
Yeah, I would think that they would.
There's a lot going on. I mean, the NBA this offseason is going to be so amazing, and so amazing after a season that's just been so crazy and so good when you consider the fact that in the past year, we've seen Chris Paul, Paul George, Melo, who else am I missing? I'm missing someone else, but Blake Griffin,
Kevin Durant.
Well, yeah, if we take it back another year, right? But the turnover in this league at the top tier of NBA talent, it's so crazy, and the action just never stops. And a lot of people were worried about would this season be interesting, and damn, this season has not disappointed at all. Storylines up the yin yang every single week, it seems. Every day there's something major that happens in the NBA. It's crazy. Speaking of crazy, we'll head to our next turn up, turn down topic, as we both turned up on the fact that, yes, the Clippers, we think, won the Blake Griffin trade, but still a good move either way for Detroit, and it'll be interesting to see. The Pistons, again, won tonight, so we'll see how that goes on down the line. But let's shift gears here to our next topic, and I teased it off the top of this podcast that keeping up with the Cavs is something that I've kind of coined here because they are the best reality show that is going in the NBA. And I always have a spot saved in our turn up, turn down segment, Webby, for a Cavs question because it just seems like something else is happening. And I feel like I changed that question 8 times up until today, where news broke from ESPN. Our boy Chris Haynes says, if the Golden State Warriors can create a max salary slot this offseason, the defending NBA champions could position themselves to secure a meeting with LeBron James, league sources told ESPN. So here's the topic, Webby. LeBron would take a meeting with the Warriors. Very simple. Are you turning up or turning down on this? Got to turn up. Listen, I wouldn't have turned up, but like we've been saying, this is
today's NBA. This is what happens now.
I can't do it, man. I can't take this in. If he even considers going to Golden State, I'll be so mad. If he takes a meeting with Golden State, not even that he would go with them, because he could take a meeting and just, whatever, like do some like covert.
What in LeBron's career would make you think that he wouldn't join the Warriors?
When you put it that way, Webby, you're right. That does make total sense. At this point, we shouldn't be surprised by anything LeBron James does, because we wouldn't have thought he would have went to Miami, right?
Right.
After he left and went to Miami and the whole Dan Gilbert situation happened, we probably never would have thought he would have came back to Cleveland as long as Dan Gilbert was still there, and that happened. So,
and the news surrounding that return to Cleveland happened a lot like this news that's surrounding the Warriors thing.
I'm saying this and knowing that I'm lying through my teeth when I say that if LeBron James goes to the Warriors, I will not watch basketball, but I will be so mad.
That's a lot.
I'll be so bad because that would be so lame. This would be the wackest of whack moves ever. But for the sake of this conversation, Webby, I'm turning down on LeBron would take a meeting with the Warriors, because I think that this is just, I think to use a term that's famous right now because of your boy Trump, this is fake news. I think LeBron is just doing normal LeBron James things right now, where he's just leaking all these stories and smoke screening everybody just to deflect away from the fact that their team sucks, but also to force the hand of the Cavs to like, hey, like I got tons of options out there. I can easily leave unless you guys get serious and try to make a move so that we can beat the Warriors next year, right? Or sorry, not next year, in a couple months. So I'm turning down. I think this is all just LeBron being LeBron. At best, he's leaking the story to see what the response would be, to see how the basketball world would react and like just crush him again. Because to me, LeBron of all people knows, Webby, how hard it is to be the villain, like everyone despising you, and then how much it took to work his way back to being the loved LeBron James, that guy that everyone's rooting for again. Like it took him so long to get back to that point. Are you going to really give it up to go join the Warriors when you could just go to Houston or go anywhere else, but just not to the Warriors? I'm turning down on this. I hope this is not a thing.
What if it meant his best shot at another ring to get him one more closer to Jordan?
Nobody will rate those championships. No.
Nobody would rate those championships. I don't know about that.
I can't do it. I can't do it.
We rate those Heat championships.
We do, but the stakes, and I agree with you, because when the Heat stuff happened, I'm trying to think. I was so hard on the whole move to Miami because I just thought it was whack, and he joined D-Wade's wave and all that stuff, and I was totally against it. And yes, at the end, you come around because you're just witnessing greatness, and he just dominated and he was the man. But I still think at the end, the reason why that wasn't that bad was because they weren't as good as we anticipated them to be. Meaning they're doing that not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, right, and all that. And really, they just went to 4 straight finals and won 2. Like, the Spurs pretty much almost did that. To me, what happened in Miami wasn't as big or as crazy as what's now one-upped by what the Warriors did in terms of being one of the best regular season teams ever, losing in Game 7 in the finals, and then adding Kevin Durant, a top 2 player in the league. Like, I don't know. The stakes on this jumping on other bandwagons has been upped so much that I can't rate this. I barely rate Kevin Durant. I don't even, I'm still angry at Durant for jumping on that wave. So LeBron jumping on the wave, nah, can't do it, Levy. Can't do it. Can't do it.
I don't think Golden State would do it, because I think that Golden State, by getting LeBron, would have to lose Klay Thompson and Draymond. And if you take Klay and Draymond off of that team, and even if you replace them with the best player in the game, that's not the same Warriors team that's made it to 3 straight finals.
It's interesting. It's not. That's interesting. I mean, I don't know if you've heard anything, but I haven't heard anything in terms of LeBron commenting since this story's come out. So I'm waiting to hear that, but this cannot be a thing right now. Again, I think it's LeBron smoke screening, because the Cavs right now are the best gong show on TV. There's so much going on. And in this edition of Keeping Up with the Cavs, I mean, Kevin Love, after being called out in meetings by Isaiah Thomas, right? Kevin Love is down with an injury now. He's out 6 to 8 weeks. You got Isaiah Thomas going back and forth with the media, and the media asking him about his shot selection. Then you have another story here that I'm going to assume is leaked by Camp LeBron today that said, Bleacher Report's Ken Berger published a lengthy piece on Wednesday detailing the Cavs' turmoil. There's a lot of meat on the bone, but the one most interesting bits pertains to Thomas's close relationship with Cavs owner Dan Gilbert.
Oh, no.
Quote, Thomas has become a favorite of Gilbert, and they often exchange calls and text messages, a league source familiar with their relationship told the Bleacher Report. This isn't necessarily unusual on a team with an owner who is as involved in the basketball side of things as Gilbert is. It also isn't a great look for locker room chemistry because the rest of the players know it. Quote, LeBron just looks at everybody as a shill for Dan.
After we heard that Isaiah might be the leak to Woj, and now Isaiah is chummy with our boy Dan Gilbert. Is Isaiah Thomas the Feds?
That's amazing. I mean, I don't know what's going down. I really don't, but I'm with LeBron on this because people might say, well, what's a big deal if Isaiah Thomas is close with LeBron? You saw what Dan Gilbert thought of LeBron and what he did to LeBron and said about LeBron when LeBron left. And regardless of how mad you'll ever be, that was that was well over the line. Like, that crossed the line a lot. And I don't blame LeBron for never getting over that. And I don't blame LeBron for being upset at anyone else that would fuck with Dan Gilbert. Because I wouldn't fuck with Dan Gilbert or anyone else who fucks with Dan Gilbert. Right? So I don't know. I just think the Cavs are just crazy right now. I don't know what else is going to happen with this team going forward, but they have officially, to steal a term from Bill Simmons that we talk about all the time on this podcast, the Tyson zone, which I don't know. Wait, did it change to the Trump zone yet or no?
It's got to be the Trump zone by now.
Right? But basically that premise is just simply any headline could come out tomorrow about the Cleveland Cavaliers and you wouldn't be surprised. And I think I'm pretty much there right now because there's just so much going on with this team. Who knows what's next? But it gives us goodies every week, right?
The way that I think about this LeBron Warriors story is that it was only a matter of time. This is where the natural progression of the craziness in the NBA goes.
I so hope you're wrong, Webby. I really, really, really hope you're wrong about this. And I really wholeheartedly, so hard, turned down on LeBron taking this meeting with the Warriors just because I can't do it. I can't do it. LeBron would take a meeting with the Warriors. I never want to read that turn up, turn down again, Webby. Never. Never. But let's move on and turn up, turn down. Keep things moving. Keep things rolling, right?
Absolutely.
Talked about so many headlines going on in the NBA this week, and one of them was James Harden putting up a 60-piece. No Chris Paul in the lineup. I think also Trevor Ariza was out as well, but they were missing key players, and James Harden put the team on his back, putting up a 60-piece in a dub, but he also put up 10 rebounds, 11 assists, 4 steals, and a block. So that means he had a 60-piece and a triple-double. This leads us, Webby, to our next
dominant performance.
Crazy performance, right? But it leads us to our next turn up, turn down topic, which is James Harden's 60-point performance is better than Kobe's 81. Webby, turn up or turn down?
I'm no Kobe stan, but I got to turn down on this. Kobe's 81-point performance is more impressive. What do you need to win a basketball game?
Buckets.
You need more points than the other team. Listen, I think in the last little bit, because of what Russell Westbrook did last year, and really the triple-double has made its way really into the basketball fans' lexicon. And listen, round numbers, I'm all about them. Multiples of 10, give them to me all the time. But here's the thing. 81 points is 19 away from 100. Bring up your college basketball scores just for this week. And you tell me how many times 81 points would win a game in college basketball.
I'm also turning down on this just because, to me, right, yes, James Harden's performance is outstanding, right? Nobody's going to take that away from him because anytime you have a triple-double with 60, 10, and 11 on 9, you score 60 points on 19 of 30 shooting. Hey, I'm going to give you a whole bunch of credit, and I'm going to say that that's great. But Kobe scored 21 more points than you in a game, okay?
Yeah, exactly.
21 points is a great night for a lot of NBA players.
100%. It's probably a performance of the night. You're probably top 5 in scoring on any given night in the NBA if you drop 21.
Right? It's so crazy. And like, if I'm digging it up now, I'm trying to find Kobe's box score from that game, right? And as I find it here, Kobe had in that game
1 assist, 2 assists.
He had 2 assists, which is
2 assists,
to me that's an amazing feat on its own, right? Like to have 81 points and 2 assists in a game. That is so Kobe. That is so amazing. But that 81-point performance is still just something that I don't think I'll ever see again. And I agree with you in the sense, Webby, that, because a triple-double has become such a thing, and what Russell Westbrook and even James Harden are doing on a nightly basis, we could see this stat line again. I'm pretty sure Russ had 50 in a triple-double a couple times last year, no?
Yeah, he did.
So, I don't know. It's a great performance by James Harden. A great performance as well because his team needed it, which I think is an even bigger deal. But I got to go with Kobe's 81 points. I just think that is just one of the craziest things we'll ever see. And yeah, 81. Yeah.
Yeah. And like nobody's seen that. I mean, if you weren't around in the what was it, mid 60s?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Nobody's seen it because nobody.
And there's no TV, there's no viz of that game.
Exactly. Right. So that's what I mean. Nobody's seen 81 points in an NBA game before. So here we go. I'm still sticking with Kobe's 81 is better. So we both will turn down on James Harden 60-point performance being better than Kobe's 81. Webby, did we agree on everything in that turn up, turn down segment? I'm not really sure.
No. We didn't agree on LeBron to the Warriors.
The Cavs and the Warriors, or LeBron to the Warriors, we disagreed on. Okay, cool. But still good conversation, right? Good conversation.
Yeah, man.
We'll get to that. The one thing we did agree, or one of the things we agreed on, was the whole Blake Griffin trade. And we both thought that the Clippers won the deal. But really, another winner in all this was NBA Twitter. Because this brings us to our Feed Me segment, which once again, for those new to the podcast, our Feed Me segment, we just go through the best and worst things from our social media feeds that the NBA has to offer from week to week. So the Blake Griffin trade was a massive thing, Webby, and I'm going to start off with Blake Griffin's response to the trade. So obviously this came out of nowhere because, as Woj pointed out, they were working on this deal for, I think he said 8 days, and nobody knew about it until the 10 minutes before it was made official that Woj tweeted it out. So Blake Griffin's response, the internet's going crazy. Twitter's on fire. Everyone has hot takes left, right, and center. And then all of a sudden, Blake Griffin, all he posts is a gif of your boy Will Smith from The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Just a shocked look on his face, just looking like, ooh. Like, if you haven't seen it, I'm sure you've seen it, but I just thought that was the greatest response and just the best example as well of just how awesome the NBA is. Because here's a superstar player getting traded, and that's their reaction on, like, he's having fun with it at the same time, even though it's a massive deal. I just thought that's the greatest thing, and you don't even see that in any other sport, right, Webby?
No, it was fantastic. Perfect use of the GIF. But here's the thing. We know that Blake Griffin has that kind of sense of humor and doesn't take himself that seriously. Yeah. Like we want all athletes, NBA or otherwise, to be. He's got that perfect demeanor for it. And so, like, to see him kind of take that in stride, I thought was great.
Yeah, I thought so too. It was so funny, and there's so much obviously going on NBA Twitter after the Blake Griffin trade. And one of the biggest things was Matt Barnes, who was very familiar with the Clippers. He posted an Instagram picture of Blake Griffin's contract, which is 5 years and $173 million with the Clippers. But the caption says, so you trade this guy after paying him this much money when everyone in the organization and everyone who's played there knows Doc is the problem. All in caps, by the way. SMFH. Cold game. Make sure you pack a jacket, BG. Love, bro. Now, a few things here, okay? One, I guess Matt Barnes is standing for the Clippers. But two, I think this was all just a cover up for him to just take a direct shot at Doc Rivers, no?
Oh, absolutely.
It's so good. Everyone's so mad at Doc Rivers. Like, how much longer can Doc Rivers possibly survive the Clippers when there's such like open season hate on Doc Rivers and the job that he's done with the Clippers?
It's absolutely wild, you know? Like, I'm surprised that they haven't gotten rid of him yet. I'm really surprised that he's lasted this long.
I wonder if they're giving him the opportunity to step down because remember, Doc Rivers left. He left the Celtics because they were going to rebuild, right? Like that was a move. They're getting rid of KG and company. And so his move was to get out. He wasn't interested in the rebuild. He jumped over to the Lob City when they were supposed to be primed to make a run to the NBA Finals, and it didn't really pan out that way. But since all his moves have been terrible, but it looks like they're going to rebuild here, and I don't think Doc Rivers at this point wants to do that. So I wonder if this is all just, they're just kind of going to allow him or maybe, suggest that he kind of step aside at a certain point while they rebuild. I think that might be a thing.
What if they make the playoffs?
They're not making the playoffs.
Why? Who's to say they're not?
I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. I think they're going to trade Lou. They're going to trade DeAndre, and the rest of the league will just catch up to them, and they won't make the playoffs. I'm glad they have Jerry West there, or just someone in their front office was clearly...
He's thinking steps ahead is what he's doing.
Exactly. Thinking ahead to be like, okay, well, why come in 8th and get smashed 4 straight by the Warriors? Like, what good does that do, right? So let's sell off our assets, get as many picks as we can, and try to rebuild going forward, get ourselves some cap space. Great move there, but I'm enjoying the shots being taken at Doc Rivers and Austin. I think that's
it always comes back to Austin.
Always comes back to Austin because Doc has saved him in the league, and I'm not even mad at Doc for giving his son some checks. I'm not mad at him for that.
Austin's having a good year.
But if I'm not mad at him for that, but I'm saying if I'm another player in the league and I was on the Clippers and Austin took some of my money, I would understand why people would be mad at that if they played in the league. So, yeah. Good luck with that, Doc, and let's see how that plays out and how much more fun we can get out of the whole Clipper situation in our Feed Me segment. But there was still a lot going on in the league, Webby, and one thing that I think you might be interested in as the battle continued to heat up between the Oklahoma City Thunder, namely your boy Russell Westbrook, and your man's Joel Embiid. So
it's a good rivalry right now.
The rivalry is bubbling, but JoJo decided to throw down hard on Russ, who for some reason decided that he was going to try to take a charge, which was a wrong idea. But that's not even the thing. Russ then just dominated that game. They end up winning the game.
It was like waking the dragon.
It exactly was that. No, it was so crazy. Russ was just like, he took his beast mode up another level and just was throwing down mean dunks. He was going crazy, even staring down JoJo at the end of the game, which was something I've never seen.
Dribbling out the clock.
Have you ever seen that before? Someone stare down a dude on the bench while he dribbles out the clock?
What's great, too, is that they took the L in that game against Oklahoma City, just like they did in the game in Philly.
Yep.
And here's the thing, Joel backs up that talk. He's a great player, and nothing's going to stop him from that. But you run into some people like Westbrook, who as soon as you say something to him, he's got that Jordan-like ability, Yeah. You say that one thing to him, and he's going to end you.
It's so true. And, after, obviously, as we said, OKC ends up winning the game, but JoJo ends up taking it to Instagram, where he puts up a photo. This is why the Feed Me segment every week is so good. And I love the NBA so much. I say that every single week. But JoJo decides to put the picture on Instagram of the perfect frame of him dunking on Russell Westbrook with the caption that says, "Tough loss, #the process." But his location, he changed to crime scene investigation. JoJo is a Feed Me all-star, Webby, because his social media troll game, is on fire. But what did you make of this, Webby? What did you think of this?
Well, listen, not only is he a social media all-star, he's an NBA all-star.
Sorry, I forgot. I left that part out. My bad.
No, but you know what? Like I say, that this is part of Joel's personality, and he likes to have fun. He recognized that they did take a tough loss, but he's having a little bit of fun, man. That was an amazing dunk, and he should be proud of it.
This, to me, Webby, I'm not going to lie to you, it made me have one of my old man get off my lawn moments, because I was like, we talked a couple weeks ago on the podcast about, the different generations, a generation gap in the NBA. And I think this was a perfect example in the sense that you lost the game, but you're going to run to Instagram to try to win the Instagram battle against Russ. Like, I just didn't get it.
It didn't rub me in that way of like, he was trying to be butthurt about what happened. It wasn't like he was kind of calling out Russ for doing.
I don't know.
Down. I think he was just trying to have some fun.
I think he's definitely having some fun, but I think that when a guy's staring you down to end a basketball game, I don't really think that he's up for your jokes after. Do you know what I mean? And I just think that that's like trolling Russ. And you know that you're trolling Russ and just angering him more. And hey, if that's your goal, cool. But again, like I said, when we had this conversation the first time, I just hope you have that same energy when you see the man again. You know what I'm saying?
But hey, I really think Joel will.
You're probably right. You're definitely probably right. But I just hope so. Just because, I was just like, why would you do that? Like, you lost the game. Just take the L and chill out. But hey, to each his own. And you're right. At the end of the day, it is kind of fun. So we're laughing about it. It's giving us content. I'm not mad at JoJo. Keep doing your thing and feeding us here on this Feed Me segment, right? But
I want to know. I've got a good over-under for you.
Okay.
Over-under tweets Joel Embiid sends out during the NBA All-Star game.
During the game?
I'll say one, and I'll set it at 1.5.
I'm going under. How's he going to tweet? He's going to have his phone on the bench?
They'll figure out a way. Yeah, and somebody will give him a phone on the bench, and they'll take a pic of him and Drummond.
Or him and Rihanna, because I think this is all a setup.
Exactly.
But moving on here, we'll look forward to that. And you know what? That would definitely make our Feed Me segment that week for All-Star 100%. Weekend if JoJo did that. But as we move on, Webby, this week, speaking of taking L's, Enes Kanter and the Suns. Things got spicy during the Knicks-Suns game, and the Knicks ended up coming out with the victory. And during the game, though, there appeared to be a little tussle or a little hold me back segment.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Where it was Kanter and Devin Booker, I think, exchanged words, or Devin Booker exchanging words with someone during the game. And either way, that's not why we're here. We're here for the Feed Me segment and what happened on social media after. And your boy Enes Kanter, who's been known to troll LeBron James this whole entire season, decided that he would take his aim at Mr. Booker, and he posted a picture of Booker holding a giant-sized L with the caption, "Hold that L, kid. Talk to me nice, or don't talk to me at all." Who is he? Baca? Like, what? What is it? And no, I said Baca, not Ibaka, for those people who might not be from Toronto, and you should know Baca not nice. But anyways, that didn't end there, though, Webby. That would have been enough, right? That was a good laugh. It was funny. Photoshop job, which I wonder who does the Photoshop for them. Do you think Kanter is actually putting the L in Booker's hand?
I bet you Kanter knows his way around Photoshop.
So Kanter hits Booker with the L, whatever, sends out that. But I didn't see a response from Booker, but I did see one from his vet, Jared Dudley, who says, "You talking like you in the playoffs, bruh. You not Westbrook, bruh. Don't let that Knicks hype fool you. We know you are a fake tough guy who likes Twitter. We already saw LeBron sun you." What do you rate Jared Dudley's response and sticking up for his teammate? Do you like that? Or do you think you should let Booker handle his own beef?
I give it a 4 out of 10.
A 4 out of 10? Ooh, that's low. How come?
Because then Kanter comes back with the better one.
You're right. Kanter comes back and he says, "Get on the treadmill before you talk to me, bro. You got the retirement body." With 2 smiley face emojis. That is pretty good, I will say.
I rate that an 8 or a 9.
Why? Because the truth hurts? Is that
exactly.
what it is?
Although, listen, Yeah, Steve Nash got Jared Dudley on that vegan diet a while ago.
He definitely did get him on that vegan diet. And then Steve Nash retired and Dudley kind of, not that he's an athlete, so obviously he's in some type of shape. Like, we're not talking about Oliver Miller here or anything like that. But in terms of like just an NBA back and forth on Twitter, Enes Kanter, are you getting tired of his act or are you enjoying it? Because it's one thing for JoJo, because as you said, Embiid's an all-star. Enes Kanter isn't really an all-star.
Exactly. And it seems like, this isn't, it seems a little different than Joel Embiid, because like Joel Embiid's whole kind of NBA persona has been tied in with his usage of social media. And it seems like this has just happened with Kanter lately. And he's seeing it as a way to kind of keep his relevance going,
Also, too, like something to touch on that you just said when we were talking about Embiid in the Feed Me segment. Embiid is a lot more playful and a lot of more jokes, whereas Kanter is trying to like go at dudes on social media.
Yeah, it seemed a little more mean-spirited.
Yeah, and it's one of those things, too, where it's like, I do wonder if speaking of having that same energy, if the same can be said for Kanter, and will he have that same energy next time he sees the Suns, right? Because, it's one thing to tweet stuff, but again, it's the NBA, which means where dudes are on the schedule and when you're playing them again and all that other fun stuff. So we'll see what happens or what transpires there. But another just fun entry into the Feed Me segment by Enes Kanter.
Yeah.
Moving on, this is something that you sent me, Webby.
Oh, we got to talk about real crime today, Sheldon.
Right? So we talked about crime scene investigation, Joel Embiid story here, but we're moving on as a Twitter account, KTVU, tweeted out, someone took off with 7-foot red panda acrobat unicycle from SFO, $2,000 reward. So when you click the link and you read the story, someone stole the 7-foot unicycle from the woman behind the red panda acrobat at the San Francisco International Airport, and now her agent is offering $2,000, no questions asked.
I like the no questions asked.
Like, what is going on here? Like, who's stealing a 7-foot unicycle? Like, what? What are you going to do with the 7-foot unicycle? How does this happen?
Well, listen, we talked about Red Panda earlier. She was having kind of a rough time early in the season.
Yes.
She was dropping plates. She wasn't completing the routine. Mm-hmm. But now, since I've been watching since then, she's been on fire.
So it's a shame then, she was on fire and then all of a sudden it's gone?
Here's what I think.
Okay.
The two dudes, the big gymnast dudes who do the halftime at NBA sometimes and they hold each other up?
Yeah.
I think they stole it.
They want their corner back. They want all the.
They want their corner back. Yeah, man. I do.
You know what I think she should do? I think that the Red Panda should go back and find Marshawn Lynch's phone number and get some of Marshawn's boys to look into this. Because I feel like they'll have more success trying to track this down. If you remember, I bring this up because if you remember earlier on in the year, the Marshawn Lynch Facebook show, the Red Panda was on the Marshawn Lynch Facebook show where she was performing her act for Marshawn, who was just absolutely mesmerized by the entire thing. He loved it. I think her moves now should be to find Marshawn, get Marshawn's boys to get on the case, because I have a feeling that they might do a better job or a faster job, a more efficient job than the San Francisco police will in terms of finding this 7-foot unicycle. And you know what? Because Marshawn's got that dough, he won't even need the $2,000 reward. He'll just do it off strength of reputation.
Listen, not only that, but it was stolen from the San Francisco airport. Marshawn Lynch, well connected in the community in the Bay Area.
Well connected indeed. And there's one more feed me I want to get to there, Webby. One more feed me, because we are well connected thanks to the interwebs and the internet to LaVar Ball, even though he's still in Lithuania and has turned into now a head coach or an assistant coach, or who knows what he's doing out there.
Basketball promoter like Don King?
Yeah, that works, actually. That makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. But the reason we bring this up is because word trickled back to the NBA, and I think that most people are kind of on LaVar Ball fatigue, and so this story didn't get as much juice as I feel like it could have. But LaVar Ball says, quote, Anybody can be a coach. Look at Steve Kerr. He's a Milli Vanilli of coaching, which I mean is you can go stand in the same spot like Luke Walton did and win 27 games when he got the right horses just running. Sometimes less coaching is the best coaching. But some of these guys like to act like they are really coaching someone to play. How are you going to coach KD, Steph Curry, Draymond Green, and Klay Thompson? You know how you coach them? You don't. You turn your back and you let them do what they do. As soon as they win a championship, everybody's like, oh, he's a great coach. That team was put together by Mark Jackson, and now he jumped up trying to take all the credit. That's why I'm calling him the Milli Vanilli of coaching. A lot to piece together there from your boy LaVar Ball. But I know it's LaVar Ball, so everyone thinks he's crazy right away, so that's why this story doesn't gain traction. But if we were to switch the messenger here, and someone else just said, is Steve Kerr really that good of a coach? What do you make of this whole premise here, Webby?
Of course Steve Kerr is a good coach. He's got to coach Draymond Green for 82 regular season games, okay? Keeping him not kicked out of every game and being able to harness the energy that Draymond Green brings to the table night in and night out makes Steve Kerr a great coach. I don't care what he does with any other player, but what he's done with Draymond Green solely, that's why I think he's the best coach, not named Greg Popovich in the NBA.
Okay, that's fair. I will say, though, that I do think that, maybe calling him Milli Vanilli is a little bit too far, but I will say there is something there in the sense that we don't really know how good of a coach Steve Kerr is because he walked into a very good situation and Luke Walton was able to win. Better. Luke Walton was able to win 27 games, right, when Steve Kerr was gone. So, I mean, do I think Steve Kerr does deserve credit? Of course he does. He gets them. He's on them all the time to play defense. He, gave Steph Curry more of the freedom to kind of just take whatever shot he wants, literally. And I don't know if many coaches would let Steph Curry do that, but clearly it's worked. And now is a margin of error. Like, does he have a margin of error because now you have Kevin Durant? Of course. But I do think there is some legitimacy to maybe Steve Kerr is a bit overrated as a coach. I will say that. I will agree with LaVar a little bit there. But of course, it's LaVar, and he does a good job of getting headlines. And how do you do that? Yeah. By calling Steve Kerr the Milli Vanilli of coaching.
Exactly.
Bravo, LaVar. Way to keep getting headlines. But speaking of getting headlines, Webby, let's move on to our Wrap It Up segment. And we mentioned earlier at the start of this podcast, we started recording just after the Toronto Raptors ended up losing to the Washington Wizards, a John Wall-less Washington Wizards squad. And that makes me wonder, Webby, what do you make of this Raptors run here? We kind of talk week after week about what we think of the Raptors and how they're doing and where they fit in the standings, but there's kind of a story that made headlines heading into this game where Bradley Beal said that he thinks the Raptors are the best team in the East. Now, Beal went out and beat the Raptors, but, it's one game. But overall, what do you make of that statement? Do you agree with Bradley Beal? Are the Raptors the best team in the East?
I would say they're tied for the best team in the East. Yeah.
Ooh, okay.
I don't think there's much space between Toronto and Boston. And I think that in a 7-game series at home court between those two will play a lot into that. But yeah, I agree with Bradley Beal about that. Toronto being, if not then 1A or 1B of the teams in the East. And, while losing to the John Wall-less Wizards, on paper, first glance, does seem pretty bad. Man, that's a road game in Washington against a team that, hasn't had Wall for big chunks this season and is still right in the thick of the Eastern Conference playoff picture. So, that's a tough game. And I know the Raps have had their ups and their downs, but I don't think it's time to necessarily count them out,
Here's my thing, right? Like, I've been in the same spot with the Raptors, and I've tried not to ride the wave, as I feel like most of the people that follow the Raptors and Raptors fans have kind of rode the wave of, the highs and lows that the Raptors season has had. And there's a lot of talk now from people where you'll hear this is the best Raptor team ever. And all this other talk. And I still haven't wavered that nothing matters until the playoffs. Like nothing matters until the full playoffs are over. Because to me, it's like, okay, well, what does being the best team in the East right now really mean? What does even getting the first seed in the Eastern Conference even mean? Like that doesn't give me that much more confidence that the Raptors are making the NBA Finals. You know what I mean? I think everyone's theories or their love affair with what the Raptors are doing this season has to do with how great they looked early on with the ball movement and the new offense, which I feel is kind of slowed down lately, if we're going to be honest. But also, I just think everyone's good feelings about the Raptors has more to do with what else is going on around them in the Eastern Conference and the chaos that's going on around them in the Eastern Conference, more so than it has to do with how good we think the Raptors actually are. Like if we just look around at what's going on in the East, we talked about the Cavs, and the Cavs are just a complete gong show right now, right? Kevin Love's injured 6 to 8 weeks. Who knows where that puts him at right at the playoff mark, like how he's going to play. We don't know.
Right.
John Wall's also out for a long time. We don't know how that's going to play out for the Wizards. The Celtics are good, but the Celtics are also relying on a lot of young guys, so we don't really know how that's going to go. The Bucks fired their coach, so we don't really know how that's going to go, right? Like, there's so much going on. There's so much chaos going on in the rest of the Eastern Conference, whereas I feel like the Raptors have been, for the most part, consistently just chugging along amidst all the chaos going on everywhere else. And I think that's what makes people feel like the Raptors are better than I actually think they are, if that makes sense. Do you know what I'm saying here, Webby?
Listen, absolutely. And the name of the game for the Raptors this whole season, and the reason that they've been so successful, is consistency.
Yeah, definitely.
You know?
I just think people overlook things, right? Like there's a telltale stat that I always think is super important when you're trying to figure out who's real and who's not, right? And we talked about it from the start of the year in terms of, if you pay attention, and people were worried about Oklahoma City, and we said, give them time and they'll figure it out. And they've been playing better as of late, right? They're now 5th in the Eastern Conference. But the thing I really bring up that I feel is important is when you look at teams' records versus 500 and above teams, okay? And I look at a team like Oklahoma City, and they're sitting at 15-11. You look at the Minnesota Timberwolves, they're at 18-13. Right? You look at the Houston Rockets, 14-9. Obviously, we know Golden State's going to be doing really good, right? But then you flip over to the other conference, and the Raptors are only 14-13 against teams at 500 and above. You're basically playing 500 basketball against the good teams in the league. So while we're all crazy and thinking like, first place, NBA Finals and all that, I'm just saying, relax, slow down, wait till the playoffs come. Cheer for the team, but don't ride the wave. Enjoy the team, enjoy the kids. I know I say this every week, but like the wave, man, like settle down on the wave, because it's I still haven't wavered. I'm not going to be swayed either way until playoffs come.
You just enjoy the ride with this team.
Yeah, man. And there's just, in the recent games, Webby, there's just been things that, I don't want to say they're falling back into bad habits, because I think that's too much of an overreaction, but I don't think that there's an excuse for you losing to the you can't tell me your aspirations are making the NBA Finals and you're losing to the Wizards without John Wall. I can't, that's not something that I'm gonna, take in and take seriously, right? You're not gonna lose at home to the Utah Jazz and I'm gonna take you seriously as an NBA Finals team. You're not gonna lose to the Minnesota Timberwolves without Jimmy Butler. And I know they beat Minnesota this week at home, but they that's a grind out victory, right? I don't know.
Listen,
just think
I'll tell you exactly why they lost tonight. Okay. Here's what I got for you: 8-0, 5-0, and DNP. Okay. That's Pirtle, DeLon, Siakam, Nogueira, and Van Vliet.
Bench didn't travel.
Well, that's what I'm saying, man.
I got you.
This is the way this team is playing. They need a complete performance from these guys. When you have a rotation like this, relying on DeRozan and Lowry doesn't work anymore. For the success of this team, you need chipping in from all these players. And like you say, if the bench doesn't travel, then you're not going to win. I don't care if John Wall's playing or if he isn't.
It's interesting too, right? And maybe to round out this conversation, the key messaging here is, shift your focus on to the improvement, the continued improvement of the young kids, because that's really what's going to carry you in the playoffs. If there is a deep run to be made, it's going to be on the backs of the kids, because you're going to need them. And, obviously that's why getting the first seed is more important, because you get more home games being the number one seed. But still, at the end of the day, you need Norm to come back around, and he's playing a little bit better the last few games. But if I'm Raptor fans, my advice to you guys is just focus in more on the continued development of the kids, because that's what's really going to carry you, because you need them come playoff time. Because if they don't show up, it'll be a short playoff run.
Believe in the rotation, man. It's been, like we've said, so consistent this whole year.
So speaking of belief, Webby, I'm going to take us to our Ask on Blast question here, and our Ask on Blast is a little different this week, because if I'm going to be really honest, I've been hella busy the past few days that I didn't even have time to try to go through and look and find questions from our On Blast or Ball on Blast listeners. So I just made up a couple questions for you, Webby, because the Super Bowl is just days away. So I know who you're cheering for. Webby. But I want to know, what are your plans?
It's who 80% of the population is cheering for.
I want to know, Webby. I know who you're cheering for. But my question to you right now is, what are your plans for Sunday? Where are you going to watch the game? Give me your setup on Sunday.
Okay, so I thought about just not going anywhere and staying by myself, drinking as much as I can, and watching it in complete solitude.
Okay.
But I've started a new job, and they're very social. Oh. And one of the people, one of my coworkers, and his girlfriend, who also works at the company, they're having a few people for a get together for Super Bowl. Like a couple of snacks are going to be served. I'll probably bring a 6-pack, of cold, good American beer, and you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to absolutely terrify my new coworkers. Because I don't think that they know how much this means to me as an Eagles fan.
That is.
And I don't take things real well if they go wrong. Listen, were the Eagles underdogs against the Atlanta Falcons at home? Yes, they were. Yep. Were the Eagles underdogs at home against the Minnesota Vikings? Yes, they were. And are they underdogs against the dynasty of Tom Brady, Bill Belichick, and Robert Kraft? Of course they are. But you know what they did in those first 2 games? They won the fucking football game. And they're going to win the fucking football game on Sunday, okay? And when the Eagles do win the Super Bowl, I'm going to weep.
Webby, I'm going to tell you something right now. I've been teasing since last week that I wasn't sure yet about what I was going to pick. And you know that I am a Tom Brady stan. Me and Tom Brady actually share the same birthday. And,
amazing.
I am not a Patriots fan, but I'm a Tom Brady supporter. I appreciate the greatness that is Tom Brady and watching him in winning time. And he's won me a lot of money in multiple Super Bowls. So you know that about me. And I've been teasing my pick for this upcoming Super Bowl, Webby, until now. And I'd like you to know, Webby, that I'm taking the points and I'm going with the Philadelphia Eagles.
Oh, wow.
The Eagles, I think, and this is going to sound crazy, but the whole year, the Patriots were good, don't get me wrong, but I never thought they were that good. I feel like I never thought they're, like, on either side of the ball, they had, like, an A-plus offense or an A-plus running game or an A-plus defense. You know what I mean? Whereas I think Philly's defense is legit. And so Gronk's kind of banged up, but he'll play, but you don't think that any of those Philly DBs or safeties are sitting back and they're going to be waiting to take a shot at Gronk? Of course they will, right? And I just think if you're looking at that Philly defense, they will be getting pressure on Tom Brady. And what is the way to beat the Patriots? Get pressure on Tom Brady with your defensive front. Because if you have to blitz against Tom Brady, that means you're taking people out of coverage and Tom Brady's going to pick you apart. And the number one thing that separates
this Jim Schwartz defense from what the Eagles used to be built on when they had Jim Johnson as their defensive coordinator, rest in peace, Jim Johnson, is that they don't blitz nearly as much as a lot of other teams. Exactly. And they still are able to get pressure on the quarterback.
And for that reason, on top of the fact that the Jaguars should have beaten the Patriots if they had any quarterback that wasn't Blake Bortles, I'm going with the Philadelphia Eagles. So hopefully I didn't jinx your team, Webby, but good luck on Sunday, my dude. Let's go Eagles. Fly Eagles, fly.
Come on, fly Eagles, fly, baby.
And may the Meek Mill be bumping all night long, right?
You know it will.
Well, hopefully Philly will be enjoying Sunday night just as much as I hope that you guys enjoyed this edition of the Ball on Blast podcast. And as always, you can find me on Twitter at Shell Alexander and on Instagram at Sheldon Alexander.
And if you want to read my one-word tweets during the Super Bowl, where I will be on my phone in a group of people trying not to swear at them, so I'll probably be just tweeting out one-word swears, you can find me at AWebster84.
And until next week, hopefully when Webby will be celebrating an Eagles victory, we are
hopefully
once again.
I'll have my voice back by then, after losing it on Sunday.
Until next week, we are the Ball on Blast podcast, unpolished and unapologetic. Until next time, see ya.
Peace.
On blast.